Well, Renee, eventually I'm going to have you on Off the Cuff with Adam Banks to do a more in-depth interview, but I would love to just talk with you a little bit and ask you about some of the things that you've been doing here lately. You were most recently featured as one of the most remarkable women in the entire country. And as a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong, you were named the most remarkable woman in Kentucky.
That's correct.
So how does that make you feel to be named one of the most remarkable women in the entire country?
Well, honestly, Adam, there are no words. However, I've come up with a lot of them over the last month to kind of describe this. But this is actually, I don't want to call it a contest because 111, what we call my angels, fellow angels that I met in Hollywood, were given a trip to Hollywood to see that their nonprofit work was recognized, and also ended up being featured on a national television special.
Wow.
As a result that aired a couple of weeks ago. And I just want to do a shout out because I know a lot of them are listening right now, but it was just such a great experience. And I was nominated here by another angel, Melissa Deaton, who has did this all secretly behind my back. So when I got a phone call in January telling me that I was going to be going to Hollywood.
Hollywood.
It was like being on American Idol and getting like a golden ticket.
The city of dreams.
Yes, and I had never been. And as a 6-year-old, I'd always dreamed about, even like when I saw that sign, like that just iconic sign on the hill. That's something I was just always fascinated with. And my parents nurtured a love of both music and film during the course of my life that has just carried with me the whole time. So to arrive in Hollywood for the first time, be driving to the hotel and just see that sign on the top of the hill, it was just a moment that I thought I would just never, ever be able to top. But then it was followed by this wonderful weekend with 111 other remarkable women from all over the country. And we ended up being treated to a trip to the Chinese theater where they used to have the Academy Awards. And our pictures were like all up on the screen. And then there was an honorary dinner the next night that we had no idea that Lisa Gibbons from Entertainment Tonight was going to be hosting. And we got to see Jennifer Hudson and Candy Johnson, who is Magic Johnson's wife.
Yeah,
so
that's so cool. I mean, you were rubbing elbows with the elite.
Yes, and rubbing elbows and hugging some of the most remarkable, and I don't use that, cliche lightly, remarkable in all sense of the words, angels. And watching their stories, I couldn't even get through the first 5 minutes of the TV special without just breaking out into tears. And I'd already seen the story while I was there. But I love all of you all, and I'm just so thankful that our paths have crossed in such a significant way.
Well, you've done so much, and it was so well-deserved. You do this radio show, Overtones Live, which is on right now, that I have been asked so graciously to co-host today. But you started this show, and I told you before we came on the air, it reminds me a lot of the Grand Ole Opry and the way they have live music in just the same time as it's being a radio show. And that's what your show reminds me of. Tell me how this show came about.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. WLXU at the time was Lexington Community Radio before it was Radiolex. And Mark Royce, the station manager, and Mary Clark at the time put out kind of a call for a new type of show that would be featuring musicians and local music, but wanted some ideas on how to make this really creative. So actually, it's the brainchild of my husband, Warren Cobb, that kind of sat down and said, you know what, I think that we could do this. And he wanted to, be an executive producer of his own show as well.
Yeah.
So we sat down and kind of plotted out what this might look like. And we thought Overtones was the natural choice for the word because we also feature not only the music, but a lot of background.
Yeah.
And not only just from the song, but the artists themselves. And also, there's things like working in concert. We use this kind of theme is that, some of them work in jobs that are unrelated to music, but kind of tie into music. So we had some working in concert type of shows. We had faculty meeting where we got some of the UK professors, EKU professors, to come in and talk about their music career as well. And we just kind of had a theme put to it. We had solo breaks. So we had people that normally perform as part of a band to come in and do their own solo type of thing. So we try to come up with some unique themes. And it's evolved as a result of COVID into the live performance show that it is now. But we always try to keep the roots in place. And I've told you, I said, we don't believe in the roots unless you have the fruits. So you got to have both.
Well, your work speaks for itself.
Thank you.
I'm looking here at a list from the Josie Music Awards, and you have... you've had almost, I would say, 50% of the nominees that have been nominated for a Josie Award on your show. And would you talk to the audience a little bit about the Josie Awards, what it is, and just a little bit about it?
Yes. What I can speak to is the Josie Music Awards are in their 9th year, and they are the brainchild of Josie Passantino Boone and her mother, Tina Marie, who have done a wonderful job in creating this experience that has now become, after 9 years, the largest award show for independent musicians, and it's an international show. So there's people from all over the world that come into this process. I'm not really sure about the number of nominees yet, or submissions that were filled out, but just to give you an idea, last year it was 58,000.
Wow.
And 1% of the actual submissions made it to the nominee phase.
1%?
Yes. So in looking at this list, I know that the early submission process was tracking in as much larger than 58,000. But this is nothing to take lightly, folks. This is not, also, it's not a voting contest. It's an educated submission process by a pro panel that basically puts nominees through to this phase. And over the next few months, they'll be making decisions about who the winners in each category are going to be. But I like it. It's multi-genre. It celebrates everything. And it's not just one category for country, for example. They have a category for modern country, traditional country. So this gets very, very specialized. And it's a very, very special thing for the independent musician.
And there are also a few artists on this list here that I'm looking at that have been nominated several different times.
Yes, and what speaks probably the most loudly to me right now as you look at this list is that the Goodwin Brothers have come in now over the course of them naming nominees over the last 5 or 6 days are up to now 9 nominations. And last year they appeared on the Grand Ole Opry stage as one of the performers. So this year's been very significant for the Goodwin Brothers, and it's been very significant for Overtones Live as well, because we partnered with them on a very special project that brought to their fans a DVD of their performance, as well as vinyl project, and also 2 CDs that came out of it. And one of those has actually been nominated for EP of the Year, but they've also been nominated for Bluegrass Band. We have the vocalist from that group, Chase Bush, Vocalist of the Year. Even their manager, Mark Newton, has been nominated.
Imagine how it makes these artists feel to be able to play at a venue as iconic as the Grand Ole Opry, to be able to stand in that iconic circle that so many great country musicians have stood in, and artists just not even in country, just in music. These guys that have been on your show that are local right here in Lexington are getting to play on that same stage. That has to make them feel good, and especially people like the Goodwin Brothers who've been nominated for 9 awards. That's got to make them feel some type of way.
Yes, it does.